morning, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Today, we are taking a look at a couple Holosun dots, and in general, we're going to be talking about why they're probably the best option in just about every price category for a handgun optic. But before we get into the video, if you want to help me out personally, you can, of course, like, share, and subscribe, as that is all free and does help us out quite a bit. On top of that, there's a subscribe star, which is basically just a pro to a Patreon, and there's also my website, which does have some things back in stock. I think we have Jaegers, Mark IVs, and Mark Vs. I believe that's what I have in stock right now. Now, with all of that out of the way, though, full disclosure on these Holosun dots is I have absolutely no relationship with Holosun whatsoever. They have never sent me a product. I do have access to distributor pricing on their products from a few different wholesalers, but other than that, there's no relationship directly with me and Holosun. I have killed a few of their optics. I don't particularly like some of their full-size optics, and their pistol red dots are basically the best on the market. Now, the two specific Holosun dots that we're going to briefly go over and that you saw in the intro are going to be the 407K and the 507C. Now, if you don't know Holosun's naming conventions, the 500 series has the 2 MOA dot and 32 MOA outer circle, multiple color variations, and there are actually a few other reticles as well. Like I believe the ACSS Vulcan is a 500 series dot. The C are the full-size models, and the K are the smaller models. So this is a 407K, meaning that it has a 6 MOA dot, no outer circle, which is the way I actually prefer it, and the K meaning that this is the smaller option. Now, the smaller option is a RMSC, RMRCC, I forget what the exact footprint is, because it's kind of its own footprint, as it does not utilize the rear posts that are found on other red dots, so it will fit some slides that are milled for, again, an RMRCC or RMSC, whichever one that it happens to be, but not all of them, as again, it doesn't utilize that rear post, so it kind of has its own footprint. Now, fortunately, because the Holosun optics are so popular, there are a lot of slides and guns that come pre-cut for this smaller style of optic. Now, the 507C, on the other hand, is the 500 series, has the 2 MOA green dot with 32 MOA outer circle. You can also cycle through the reticle options. I always use it with just the dot, as the 32 MOA outer circle for me is too tight to really utilize, and it kind of just muddies up the image, so I use the 2 MOA dot, and I find that it's perfectly fine. This is the green version. Now, with the 507C, it is, of course, the full-size red dot, which shares the RMR footprint, which is probably still the most popular footprint overall. So this has fit every RMR cut slide that I've used it on. I've used it on Smith & Wessons. I've used it on multiple Glocks at this point, multiple Glock slides as well. And this is the Shadow Systems DR920. Now, battery life on both of these optics is rated at 50,000 hours at setting 6. Now, the 507C, you'll probably notice, has a solar panel on top. I always forget to mention it, as it really doesn't matter. The 50,000 hour battery life combined with auto on, auto off technology, meaning that it will turn itself off, save battery, and then turn back on when it senses motion, means that you're going to be getting an extended runtime from both of these. And the solar panel on the 507C only works if the battery is completely drained or in kind of its auto mode, which you can cycle out of. Again, it's pretty gimmicky and it really doesn't need to be there. It adds a little bit of cost. For some people, they like it as a true solar backup, a true failsafe, if you will, but for the most part, you're never going to need it. Now, they both utilize the smaller 1632 battery. It's a pretty small battery, but they still do get a good battery life out of it. And very nice on both of the optics is they're both side loading. So they're not bottom loading. So when the battery does die in the next 5 to 10 years or so, you can switch the battery and you don't need to re-zero the optic. Now, both of these optics utilize 2 small rubber buttons on the side of the optic to adjust the brightness. I believe you have 10 daylight settings and 2 night vision settings, though I can't really speak as to how well they work. And other external controls are just going to be your windage and elevation, which for micro red dots, pistol red dots, they have fairly decent clicks, and they adjust with a very small flathead screwdriver. You might be able to fit a certain very small thin case rim in there to adjust it. Fortunately, both of them hold zero very well. Now, the main thing about Holosuns for me personally is that they do everything very, very well, and they're not particularly expensive. For instance, this is the 407K, though I've owned the 407C as well. I paid under $200 for both of them retail, not at wholesale or distributor pricing. So you can often find the 400 series for, again, around $200, sometimes under $200. I believe I picked this one here up on sale for $154. which almost puts it in like the super budget territory, but you're still getting all of the features and all of the durability. Now, when we talk about Holosun dots, there's a reason I really haven't talked about them up until this point, and I've used these on a lot of different guns. I've used this, again, on at least 4 different guns, and this one here on probably not quite as many, maybe only 3 different guns. In total, between the 2 of them, I probably have around 7,000 rounds, and they've both worked extremely well. This one here has also been mounted, well, I guess they've both been mounted in offset positions as well on rifles, and this is actually the first Holosun that I've ever killed, though that was after several hellos to a steel plate. Now, it's no secret that I don't shoot handguns nearly as much as I do rifles. I prefer to shoot rifles. They're a lot faster, a lot easier, so on and so forth, and they make me feel like a better shooter. Now, that being said, every time I do shoot a handgun that has a dot on it, I get the question, what dot should I buy? And the answer is almost exclusively Holosun. They have basically the best price to performance, and not to mention in some cases just outright the best performance as well at virtually every size and price category. If you need a micro dot, they have the micro dots. They're very affordable and they have all of the features. Now, recently I've also been shooting a lot of pistol dots, which is another reason why this video is coming out now. All of the pistol dots from Primary Arms, the RS10, which is a doctor size footprint, which has all of the features, but the emitter is really bad and not bright enough. You have the Micro, which is a RMR footprint, does not have auto on, it has auto off, no auto on. The refresh rate is good, but it's not bright enough. Then you have the Mini, the super small guy from Primary Arms, with the very, very thin hood that is not particularly confidence inspiring. Again, auto off, no auto on, emitter refresh rate is good, but the dot still isn't bright enough. So even in that super budget category, like this is a Viridian, this straight up died, but in that super budget category, like under 150 bucks, if you can find a Holosun in that category, it is absolutely going to destroy every other dot that it comes against in terms of value, in terms of performance, and in terms of durability. Now, talking about that, the 407K, which is again the cheaper, smaller Holosun red dot, this has been dropped twice onto a steel target with no issues whatsoever. Now, I didn't put that on film with the 407K just because when it's mounted to the Shadow Systems DR920, the DR920 doesn't come with the proper super large shims for the really micro style red dots. It does fit on the slide and it will screw in just fine, but it's not going to be supported forward and back, so it probably wouldn't have held zero. With the 507C though, it is designed and has the proper shims in the back to make sure that it takes up the entire surface area of the slide cut so that it's going to retain zero quite a bit better. So this optic was dropped 3 times on a steel target from, again, about shoulder height. I'm not particularly tall though, so keep that in mind. And it wasn't until the final drop itself that the actual window cracked. Now, it cracked in kind of the worst possible way. It has 2 hairline fractures, one right above the dot and then one right below the dot. So depending on how you're looking at it, the dot actually moves around a little bit. So it didn't really maintain zero, even though I don't believe the emitter position actually shifted. It's just that because of the way that the glass cracked and sheared right in front of the dot, right on top and right below the dot, that it's really not usable. You'll miss a foot low left and then a foot high right, depending on how you're looking at the dot. But again, keep in mind that that's after several thousand rounds and some unrealistically harsh impacts. Now, this optic is dead. It will need to be replaced. And in fact, I'm probably just going to replace it with a 407C if I can find one. If not, I will probably go with like a 509 or something, maybe one of their higher end dots and closed dots, just to kind of see how those perform, maybe do a review on one of those in the future. Now, there's really only one category of pistol red dots where Holosun doesn't basically outright have the best dot, or at least the best value dot in that segment, and that's probably going to be for straight up competition shooting. You're probably going to want your Delta Point Pros, your Trichicon SROs, or your Sig Romeo 1 Pros, or something like that for just a pure competition dot with the biggest window, the least tint, the least distortion, that sort of thing. The thing about Holosuns is they do have a pretty aggressive blue notch filter. They do have a little bit of warping around the edge of the glass, but all of that is going to be secondary to their, again, very good feature set for the money, very high level of durability, and again, they make basically every version on the market. So, if you're looking for a dot or a handgun, it should probably be a Holosun. If you're looking for a cheap dot, then you should probably find a 400 series, either a 407C, 407K. Personally, again, I don't really even like the 500 series. You don't need the solar panel. You don't need the 2 MOA dot, 32 MOA outer circle. The 400 series is almost always the better buy. But with all of that out of the way, guys, I do want to thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think of Holosun dots in the comments down below. Let me know what I should swap out this dot with, if there's a specific Holosun dot that you would like to see me review, or of course, anything else on the market. Now, with all of that out of the way, guys, I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Peace out.
Upload that underneath the target. That felt like a good shot.